What is the solution? I really do not have the answers to all of these problems of America. I don't. But I do. I'm a believer. And my last couple of videos are about the spiritual law, which trumps man-made law of reaping and sowing. And when we think about karma, we think about karma on an individual level. Reaping and sowing on an individual level. Like, well, you did these things, and so you have to pay for what you've done. You have to face the consequences. And consequences, again, I say, have a negative connotation, but it could be positive consequences based off of doing right. And it's not secular. It's not solo. Like, none of us are all of one way, right? We all do good. We all do bad. So everybody that you've helped along the way, everybody that you've assisted along the way, doing the right thing, the people that you've helped protect and given justice to, parents, especially if you've chosen to continue life on this earth, all of that you're going to receive blessings for. Just like you will receive negative consequences for the wrong things that you've done. That's just how it works. It's not something that I made up. This is spiritual law. So we look at it from an individual standpoint, but we don't look at it from a more broad standpoint. And like I said, I don't have the answers. I really don't have the answers to a lot of these problems that we're facing. I don't have the answers or the solutions to America's problem, but I do know that anybody with any sort of spiritual understanding knew that there was going to be a time that America was going to have to pay for what she had done. On a broader level, if we all have to pay for what we've done on this earth, the good and the bad, America was going to have to pay for what she has done. And please don't scapegoat the messenger, because that's what you love to do. You love to scapegoat the messenger. I'm just telling the truth. That's all. I'm only the messenger. Okay? Don't scapegoat me. Don't put it all off on me. I'm not the problem. I'm not the reason for all of your problems. I'm not what's wrong with America. This is something that's been going on for centuries. These are problems that have been swept under the rug for centuries. And the thing about denial and the thing about not accepting responsibility for your actions is it doesn't serve you. Like, delusion doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't serve the underprivileged, the people who are being exploited, nor does it serve the people who are benefiting from the delusion. It doesn't serve you. Like, for example, the notion of white privilege. Well, there's no such thing as you being better because you have a certain lack of pigmentation or melanin in your skin. That is a man-made belief, right? But because so many people believe it, it gives it some degree of power, but it's still not factual. It's still make-believe, right? So all along, you've been thinking that your white skin gives you like some kind of up on everybody else. And you've been carrying on like it does. But now we're facing a dilemma where we're pretty much all in the same boat. And so when it comes to survival, are you going to be looking for an out with your white skin? Or are you going to be looking for the most fit, the most war and battle ready? the people who are more inclined to survive? Who do you want to partner up with? How does your white skin serve you during a time of crisis? All of these hierarchies, false hierarchies that you've bought into, right? Oh, this person is a nobody because they don't have money, or they work this type of job, or the way that you've treated the homeless community in this country. How do all of these things serve you during times of crisis? When none of that stuff matters anymore. The delusion that you've built, right? The delusion that you've built your ego on is gone, right? All of it is gone because it's a time of crisis. How does that serve you? And again, don't kill the messenger. I'm just saying how I see things. I'm just strictly talking from my heart. This whole race bullshit has been a fallacy for a very, very long time. And in my opinion, if I could dream up a new America, right? If I could dream up a new America and I had the privilege to birth a new nation, I would get rid of every ism, right? Imaginable. Now, some people say, hey, that's impossible because there's always going to be a survival of the fittest to some degree. There's always going to be a class. There's always going to be, it could be anything, right? It could be where smaller penises are now, more desired. You know what I mean? Anything. It could be that, obesity, like the bigger that you are, is now, what keeps people on top. Like people are always going to find a way to sort themselves out, to have the upper hand, to have some sort of favor or privilege. But as much as we've turned away from God, it's like, isn't this a story that's been told time and time again? Like God wanted all of us to be equal, have all of us to have the privilege of his favor and all of the beauty that he offered us. And it was the rebellious angel that was like, no, I'm better. I'm better. They're only made of clay. I'm made of fire. I'm better. Wasn't that the origin of where this whole thing came from in the first place? That mentality of hierarchy, of no, you're poor, so you're worse. Or you work here, so you're worse. Or the color of your skin is this, so you're worse than us. We need that, right? We need that for our psyche. We have to have something to feel better. We have to have something to inflate our egos. But where's the seed of that? Where was the origin of that? And you can look at the Bible or the Torah, the Quran as a fable. You're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to look at these religious texts as just a fable and say it's just make believe. But these are old books that have been around for a while. And the stories and the gems that you can extract from these fables, whatever you want to call it, is probably something that could save you a lot of time, a lot of hard lessons, a lot of misery. Because that very mentality that the shaitan found it so unbearable that the Most High was putting these people, like, they're not as good as me. They're not even made of fire. They're not as loyal as me. That was what the whole thing was about. And now we see it time and time and time and time and time again. This is something that's been repeated for generations and generations and generations. where you take it back to the first people who were in America, the Native Americans, and they had a whole different spiritual understanding. They believed that the Most High provided. I don't know, I can't speak to a large extent, to a detailed extent about their spiritual beliefs. I did work at a casino, and I had the chance to have a lot of in-depth conversations with a lot of Native Americans, and they told me about some of their spiritual practices, but I don't want to generalize and say that they all do the same thing. But from what I understand, it is a more human sense of spirituality that they practice. And they had a whole different mentality. They said, wow, this is like a beautiful land, and we can grow, plants, and we can garden, and we can take care of one another, and we can learn from one another, because we all have different skills, right? We all come to this earth with different skills. So somebody might be a seamstress, and somebody may be, have a really good green thumb. And then you might have a chef on board who's cooking up all the good food for us to eat. And then you may have, a musician who's providing the entertainment. Like, everybody has their place, and we're not going to put one above another, because we all need each other, and we're all bringing something to the table. Every single person is bringing something divine to the table. Every single person is in tune with their spiritual self, that they know what their purpose is, and they're bringing that to the table, and everybody's here, and there's no conflicting, and there's no combating, because everybody's living what they're here to do, and it's total harmony, because we all know that we're here to serve one another. And so the Native Americans had their whole thing going on, and it was peaceful, and it was beautiful, and they were enjoying each other's company, and they were enjoying the land. And then you have these people come over who had a whole different understanding, and they looked at their spiritual practice and their way of life as naive, as elementary, perhaps childlike, really an easy target. They said, oh, all we have to do is trick these people, and we can take everything that they have. Because their understanding was not the same understanding. They didn't have the same belief system that life was a matter of rising to your gift and sharing and being kind to one another, and everybody respecting each other and things like that. They had an understanding of domination. They believed that we are here on earth to dominate. And that's what makes you win, to dominate, to obtain the most, to acquire the most, by any means necessary. So lying and killing and stealing and raping and plumaging, it wasn't not in accordance with their moral code, because their moral code was to dominate by any means necessary. So if that means I gotta rape all your women, I gotta take everything that you have, I gotta trick you, I gotta give you smallpox and blankets, as long as I'm fucking dominating, as long as I'm taking that shit, I'm winning. I don't give a fuck how I take it. I don't give a fuck if I lie, I cheat, I steal, I manipulate, I coerce, I trick. I don't give a fuck. I'm here to dominate. I'm going to take your shit. And then you got a group of people who are like totally void of that mentality, and they're like, we don't know anything about that. This has value, diamonds. Oh, we just thought it was the strongest, toughest rock. We didn't know that this was, yeah, take it. We don't worship these things. These are just material things. We don't. Just take it, sure. Let us show you our way of life. Come on in. Be our guest. And these people are like, this is like stealing some fucking candy from a baby. You dumb motherfuckers, because we're about to take all the shit that you have. It's two different mindsets. It's two totally different philosophies, two totally different belief systems and ways of life. And this is what we're still dealing with centuries later. Like, we have not found a way to negotiate different mentalities. Because some people prioritize things that are very, very different. And for whatever reason, even though this one group of people have done everything through time and time again, through the Native Americans, then we go to slavery and free labor and the same type of things, raping and just doing things that most people would consider inhumane, unjust. For a certain group of people, that doesn't translate as that. That just translated as domination by any means necessary. And so this conversation that I'm listening to in light of this situation with George Floyd, I'm like, isn't this the same kind of conversation that we've been having since the Native Americans? Everybody's like, this is so wrong, this is so wrong. But don't you understand that there's a group of people that don't think in those terms? Like, they don't think in those terms of what's wrong. And now that more people kind of are thinking in those terms, they just kind of have to pretend like they do, but they don't really. And they're kind of pissed about it. They're kind of pissed about the fact that they have to front. Like, I really wish I didn't have to be so pretentious, because I don't give a fuck about how you eat, how you live, how your kid eats. Don't care. Never have. It's not in our nature. We do what we want, when we want, to who we want, and don't give a fuck about the repercussions of it. That's our nature. And so I just don't understand why people are constantly trying to speak a moral code to people who don't have moral standards. Isn't this the same conversation that has been going on for eons, for centuries? From since the land was stolen from the Native Americans? They don't care. They don't care about, look, the same expression that pig who killed George Floyd had on his face was the identical expression that they had during their lynch parties. Their lynch parties were symbols of domination. Oh, we got another nigger. Great. Let's hang him up on the tree and have a barbecue. It's a celebration. One nigger down. Whoa! This is their mindset. They don't give a fuck. You are speaking another language to these people by trying to pry on their compassion. They have none. They're soulless. All they care about is obtaining things in domination. I need you to really understand that. Because that is not the solution. Appealing to heartless people's hearts? They have none. They have no hearts. They have no souls. They don't care. And I'm like, why don't people get it? Like, all the marching and all the protesting and the tears. Like you and I, we feel something when we see a lifeless body in the streets, when we see like such grave injustice, we feel things. We feel. It triggers something within us. We feel. They don't feel. They don't feel anything. And how could you not believe that when they constantly perpetuate the things that they do? Like the things that would be unfathomable to us. They do with no problem. And don't stop. They don't care if it's illegal. This country was obtained illegally. Everything that's currently outlawed is how they got rich. So what is law to them? They're above the law. Don't you understand that they specifically recruit people of the law who are more heartless than everybody else? Because they know that if you have a heart, you're not going to be able to do these things. Having a heart is seen as like naive. It's like stupid to them. It doesn't make sense to them. Like, oh, you have a heart? Like that's like it's like a point off, several points off. They don't feel anything. So I said in the beginning of this video, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to have a conversation with somebody who doesn't speak my language. You know, I don't speak Japanese, so it'd be very difficult for me to converse and have a conversation and try and find a common ground with somebody who does not speak English. But what I know is that trying to appeal to their compassion hasn't worked, isn't going to work. Never will work. And I think it's time for a new strategy. This has been going on for a very long time. We've gone from lynchings to, mass incarceration to a lot of the things that we see right now, just and to the point where people are numb to it. A lot of people are just numb to this. They don't care. What are we going to do about it is really the question. I've been saying I don't think that saying fuck Trump is the solution to the problem. Everybody's been like, fuck Trump, fuck Trump. How does that solve anything? How does saying fuck Donald Trump solve any issues? People don't like Trump for who he represents. He represents all right, all white, all of these things. He represents, the type of people that you would find at, a Trump rally, and how often they're just really closed-minded to like different points of view. And he appeals to them, even though he came from a very privileged background. He appeals to the angry, kind of like white American, who feels like, their country is being taken from them and all of these things. And they're angry about all of these things. They've been angry for a while now, and they see the Kardashians dating these black men, and it pisses them off. And, the idea of black culture infiltrating America, and they feel like they're losing their country, and it's bad. He appeals to them, but he appeals to their ignorance, and he appeals to their perception, because if everybody had the chance to be a Black studies minor like me, which I think everybody should be. I think everybody should have I think every American should be a Black Studies minor, a Native American Studies minor, a feminine studies minor. Like, I think that every American should have the opportunity to educate themselves on what it's like to be a minority. But that's just my opinion. If people really were educated on these things, then they would not have these perspectives. Unless they just were desperate to just hold on to something that was false, they would not have these perspectives. So it really screams to a lack of education. I think that, again, the solution is not to say fuck Trump, especially since he has been open and willing to sit down with people. Where the division is never going to solve anything. I know that for a fact, unless we all just decide to move up and move to Africa, which is not the worst idea in the world, because they'll have to solve their own shit and not have to take out their rage on us if we just disappear. But that's a whole nother conversation. I don't think that, again, the solution is saying fuck our president, because these problems were here long before we had Trump in office. Let's be clear about that. America has never been a fair country. We've always had immense injustice. We've always been looked at as, well, basically, if you're not a slave, then what are you here for? You know, our bodies have always been for sale, whether it's free labor or whatever. This is nothing new. So to, again, have like very selective amnesia and say like, oh, Trump is to blame for all of America's problems. That's crazy. That's scapegoating the man. And I'm not, saying that he's the greatest guy in the world or whatever. But what I'm saying is, good and well that our country has had some major issues, major issues long before Donald Trump. The issue now is that, what do they say? The chickens have come to roost? Something like that. Like, right now, what's happening is similar to the Great Depression. We're starting to see that a lot of our priorities, we've misprioritized. And if I could dream up a new America, I would go back to the Native American way of life. And I would not have fiat, not have cash. I would have a bartering system. I would not set up these hierarchies that have people feeling entitled or privileged. Everybody would be judged off of their character and off of what they can bring to the collective. Because we're seeing now that, and don't kill the messenger, but when we have such a large crisis of opioids, right, where people got to just pop a pill just to feel okay, just to numb out, just to be able to function. Like, there's people every morning they wake up and they think about like taking their lives, and they got to pop a pill just to not commit suicide. What has all of this materialism, this material priorities, what has this brought us? Why is our nation so depressed? And I go back to my original point about the karmic law of cause and effect and karma. Have we ever thought that maybe, just maybe, this nation is depressed because of all of the bad shit that they've done to everybody else? Not just here in America, but globally? That maybe, just maybe, you're depressed and you're angry inside, and you wake up contemplating suicide, and you wake up angry and you don't know how to solve your problems because of all the bad shit that you do? I mean, I don't know. It's just a theory of mine. I don't wake up feeling like that. I wake up feeling all right. I go to bed with a clear conscience. Even if I don't have much, I know that I didn't exploit anybody to get that. So I'm just saying, in theory, like, what is the solution? I think that the solution is to start doing right by people. and begin to plant good seeds to try and at least maybe do some damage control, because nobody is winning right now. No matter how much money you have, if you're waking up feeling miserable and you got to pop a pill just to get going, you're not winning. If you got to drink yourself silly, you're not winning. With COVID, what's on the rise? The economy is down. What is on the rise? What economies are doing well? Booze, alcohol, drugs, likely prostitution. Why is it that we are escaping to things that are to our detriment? Why is it that we have a nation of alcoholics? Why is it that we have a nation of addicts? Why? That's not winning to me. That's not winning to me when you don't have happy people. And my last point is, like, I'm half West African. And one thing that I love particularly about my culture, the culture that I hold in my heart so much, is that I come from a poor country. Now, my people were not. My people were diplomats. My people owned farms, diamond farms. My people were not. But I come from a very poor country. Or my people come from a very poor country. And no matter how poor the country is, the people typically were very happy because they valued the right things. And that's how I want to end it. I don't ever want to say that, yes, we are here because I believe that the Most High has us here to be prosperous, to live in abundance. I don't want to live in poverty. I want to have comfort and enjoy the luxuries of life that God has provided us. Great fruit and great, food, fresh water, and all of the great things, clean air that God has provided us, and live right and live good like everybody should, like every single person should, right? But the true wealth is the renewal of your mind and the wealth of your spirit and the wealth of your mind. And the true wealth is waking up each morning and being grateful, waking up each morning and having ideas that can change the world, that can give people peace, better understanding of each other, more harmony. Because as much as the dominant society feels like, hey, what do we need that for? Can you really say that you're happy with all the wealth that you've stolen and all the ways that you've exploited people? Can you really say that you're happy? And from what I've observed, I don't think so. When the only time you smile is when you see somebody else oppressed or you're doing evil, and you wake up wanting to contemplate suicide, and you wake up based off of the things that you do to other people, that doesn't seem like happiness to me. So what's the point of having all of that and not having peace and not having, happiness? And I'm not saying anything new. Certainly you've heard this point before. So again, I don't have the solutions to everything, but if we are structuring a new America, if we're on the brink of creating a new world, right? I feel like these are things to take into consideration. If we really care about each other, if we really care about humanity, it should be equal access to success, wealth, abundance, equal access to justice, equal access to everything. Because this whole situation is not serving the people that are quote unquote privileged or the underprivileged. Peace.